To add an analog clock, go to Add Components, then select the option Analog Clock. Note on the left sidebar that this component is actually a group. If you expand it, you will see that it is made of 6 other components. The first 3 main ones are the second, minute, and hour hands. The other 3 are the shadow components. Shadow components are basically clones of the hands for you to place an image that will work as a shadow. You can see that they are not even visible by default. I personally don't like this shadow component. It does not make much sense to me. In my opinion, it is better to create the hand image using an image software editor that already contains the shadow. But anyway, the hour and minutes hands have the settings we already covered in other components: placement, dimension, rotate, image appearance, and color, nothing different. The second hand component has the same settings as the other 2, with one extra. Let's run the preview so I can show you the extra setting. In the hand settings group you can find the movement effect option. This option will define how the second hand moves. For example, it is now set to normal. In this case the second hand will jump from 1 second position to the next, as you can see in the preview. The second option is the sweep. This option will make the hand have a continuous movement. The frequency option here is equivalent to the FPS. For example, 15 Hz means that the hand will update the location 15 times in 1 second. 2 Hz means that it will update the location twice each second. You can even set it to sync with the user's device frame rate. The third option is the tension. This option makes the hand move in discrete bursts. The tension strength determines how strong the burst will be and, consequently, the bounce back effect. If I set it to 100, you can see better how it behaves in the preview. If you click on the analog clock group, there will be one extra setting, the time zone. This option allows us to select the time zone of the analog clock, as the name says. If you keep the sync with device option selected, it will always show the current time from the user's location. Or you can also set the clock to always show the current time of another location by selecting another time zone. Okay, but what if we want to change the hand's design? For that, right-click on the analog clock component, then select the Swap Media option. A pop-up will show up for you to select the hand of each hand. Once you are done, click on OK. But what if we want to give the user more options? For that, make sure the component group is still selected. Then go to the Style tab, then click on this plus icon. The same pop-up will show up. Select the new hands, then click on OK, just like before. Now you will have new hands options. You can also repeat the same process for each individual hand. Select the hand you wish, then click on the plus button of the Style tab, then select the image. But be careful, the analog clock component combines all hands into one element. If you add one hand for one of the components and not for the others, when the user selects this option, the other hands will not be displayed, as you can see here. I personally don't like the analog clock component. It does not give us much control over the hands, but there is a better option over the analog clock, the radial indicator component. To add it, click on Add Component, then inside the More option, click on Radial Indicator. A pop-up will show up for you to select the hand image. In the right sidebar you will see that there is a new group for this component. The first option allows us to select what data this component will use. You can set it to use the current hour of the day, the current minute, the current day of month and more. For example, let's select the second in minute option. This will make this component work as a second hand, as you can see. The value options allow us to set the starting and ending value. For example, now it is set to 0 and 60. This means that the hand will rotate while the second is between these two values. If I set the first value to 30, the hand will only rotate when the current second is between 30 and 60. Note that now a full rotation of the hand happens in 30 seconds, not 60 anymore. This happens because the full rotation is determined by the end value minus the start value, in this case 60 minus 30, which gives us 30 seconds. But it rotates once only because it is set to 1. If we set it to 2, for example, it will now do 2 full rotations in 30 seconds, that is, 1 full rotation each 15 seconds. But it will only rotate when the second is between 30 and 60 because I didn't change the start and end value. Now let's try something else. Let's set the rotation back to 1 and set this angle input here to 360 and see what happens. Nothing changed. It still follows the same rule as before. This happens because this angle input here is to set the amount of angle this hand should rotate. I set it to 360, this means that it must rotate 360 degrees in 30 seconds. However, the rotation input here also adds angle. In this case, this is set to 1 full rotation plus 360 degrees. As 1 full rotation equals 360 degrees, this means that this setting is equivalent to the previous one, which was 2 full rotations. Let's go back to the default values. You can see here the CW option. CW means clockwise. This drop-down here is to select the direction the hand will rotate. If we want it to rotate counterclockwise, click in here and select the CCW option. Just like the analog clock, you can set here the movement effect of the hand, the frequency, the strength, the time zone, and even set a style. Just go to the Style tab, then click on the plus, select the image, and done. Nothing new here. Now let's add another radial indicator and set it to show the current minute instead of the second, and add one style. Note that now we have 2 style options here. One for each hand. Different from the analog clock, where you could only change all hands at once, now you can select one style for each hand independently. Indexes are those tick marks around an analog clock. Let me show you. Go to Add Components, then click on Index. A pop-up will show up for you to select the index design. Once you've selected the image, Watch Face Studio will generate the indexes around the watch face. Once again, this component has all the basic settings already covered. Down here you can find the index settings. The type option is just a preset setting for common indexes. For example, the hour option creates 12 marks in a 360 degrees path. The minute/second option creates 60 marks in a 360 degrees path. You can also customize it. For that, select the custom option. The number input determines the number of marks the index will have. For example, let's set it to 100. It will generate 100 marks. These other 2 inputs determine the starting and ending angles of the path. In this case it starts at 0 degrees and ends at 360 degrees. If I set the start angle to 90 degrees, it will evenly distribute the 100 marks between the angles 90 degrees and 360 degrees. Note that the origin of the angles is the top of the canvas and that the angles don't add up. If I set the end angle to 180 degrees, it will draw the marks between 90 degrees and 180 degree. The origin is still the top, and the 180 degrees does not add to the 90 degrees. If I wanted to draw a 180 degrees angle path starting on 90 degrees, I have to manually calculate it. In this case, it would be 270 degrees, that is, 90 degrees plus 180 degrees. The indexes do not have to be used only to indicate time and be around the watch face canvas. You can resize and move it by clicking and dragging it. You can also set styles for it. Just do the same process as always. Digital clock is a component optimized for showing time. Watch Face Studio offers us some predefined settings. To check them out, go to Add Components, then select the menu Digital Clock. In here you can find some options. The first one is a component that displays only the current hour. The second one is a component that displays only the current minute. And the third, only the current second. The fourth one shows both the hour and the minute, and the last one shows the full time, hour, minute, and seconds. You can also find some variations of the same components, just expand the variable menu. In here you also have the hour, minute, and second variations. Let's add the hour to our watch face. Note in the left sidebar that this component is actually a group. If we expand this group, you will find 2 components. Each one represents 1 digit of the time value, in this case the hour. This way you can select each individual digit and customize it. For example, you can place one under the other to make a vertical digital clock. As you can see, they are synchronized with the current time. Okay, but let's keep only this full digital clock, as its settings will cover the settings for all the others. The only new group is the clock settings. In here you can set the time zone, just like we did with the analog clock. The hour format determines if the digital clock must use a 12 or 24-hour format. If you set it to sync with device, the default option, it will adapt itself according to the user's watch settings. I recommend leaving the default option here. The last option in this group is the leading 0-inch checkbox. This option is to force the hour to have a 0 in front of the numbers in case they are less than 10. Just like a regular text component, the font settings group is down here. In it we can set the font and the size and add transformations to the text. But different from a text component, in this group we have an extra button, the Customize Font as a Style. If we click on it, it will take us to the Style tab. You can see in here that we have a TrueType font group. it allows us to add font style to the digital clock. This way the user can select which font the digital clock will use. To add a font, click on the plus button, then select the extra font the component will have. You can also add your own fonts, just click on Add Font, then select the font you wish to use. Before ending this topic, I need to mention one last component. The colon. Go to Add Components, inside the digital clock menu expand the variable menu, then select the colon option. As the name says, it adds a colon. The only difference here is that you can add a blinking effect. Just check this checkbox here, and done, it will blink every second. To add a time component, go to Add Components, then inside the More menu click on Time. Done. This component is a text component, but optimized for tags related to time. As you can see here on the left, it has a text field that you can edit, just like a regular text component. For example, let's add an extra text, ABC, and set the minute tag to not have a leading 0. Done, we've changed its content. Another group it has is the clock settings. In here you can set the time zone, the calendar in case you are using date tags inside this component, and the language, which I'll cover in the next topic of this video. It is worth mentioning that different from the digital clock component, this component does not allow us to set styles for the font. You can only set one font as you do with text components. The ICU component allows us to create date and time texts that will adapt according to the user's location. To add an ICU component, go to Add Components, then click on ICU Date and Time. In the right sidebar there is a new group, the Date and Time group. The first option offers a couple of date and time formats. In case you want to know what each pattern means, check this table here. For example, this one will show the full name of the week, the name of the month abbreviated, the current day without the leading 0 and the year with 2 digits. Let's select an hour format for now. The next two options are the time zone and the calendar, which we already checked. The next dropdown is the time source. In here we have some options. The first one will show the current time. The second one will show the time the weather information was updated. This one is for you to use when you show weather data using tags. As the system does not give us live weather data, it is recommended for you to inform the user of when the data you are displaying is from. The next option is the hours. This one allows you to increment the hours by a value that you can set using this input here. The last option is the days. It works exactly like the hours, but with days. You can see that it increments the day, doing all the math required, like updating the month, if necessary, for example. Okay, you can see that I select one format that will display the day of the week, the month, the day, and year. Notice the sequence at which it is showing the info. First the day of the week, then the month, then the date, then the year. If I simulate a device with another language, for example, French, the same information is here, but this time the order they are displayed has changed. Now it displayed the date first, then the month. This is what this component does. You select which information you want it to display, and it will adapt the data to match the format used in the language of the user. Most of the data that comes from tags and components, like the name of the month, the day of the week, and the weather name, will have, by default, a translation to the user's language provided by Wear OS. However, in case you wish to limit to specific languages, you can use this option here. If you click on this engine icon, a pop-up will show up for you to select in which languages you wish this component to be available. For example, if I select Albanian and Arabic, this component will only support those two languages. In case the user's watch is not set to use any of the supported languages, it will use the default one. In this case, the default is the Albanian, as you can see here. In case you wish to change the default language, click on the star of the language you want to set as default. For example, now the default language is Arabic, not Albanian anymore. Once again, if the user's language is not in the list you set, it will use the default you set. For example, even though I'm simulating a device using French, the text is in Arabic. I recommend not selecting any language. This way the text will adapt to the user's language. To add a date component, go to Add Components, then on the More menu, select the Date option, and done. Different from the ICU date component, this one allows us to change the tags used as if it was a text component. It also allows us to set the time zone and the calendar, limit the languages, change the text style, and more. But be careful, different from the ICU component, this one will not adapt the tags used to meet the watch language. Notice that right now the watch language is set to English. The component is showing the month first and then the date. But if I change it to French, like I did before, it still shows the month and then the date, while the ICU component would adapt it to the format used in French. This happens because, just like the time component, this one is a text component optimized for dates, and the watch face studio does not change the texts you entered. It will, at the most, translate the tags you are using. This is all for this video.